Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Nice to be here with all of you on this Bhima Ekadashi day, very special day. And we're reading from Canto 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 15. This is called Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. It's Narada Muni speaking to Maharaj Yudhisthira. And today we're covering texts 12 to 21. So let's start by reading those verses. Need the mic? Okay, I'll start while someone's grabbing the mic. Text 12. There are 5 branches of irreligion, appropriately known as irreligion, vidharma, religious principles for which one is unfit, paradharma, pretentious religion, abhasa, analogical religion, upadharma, and cheating religion, chala dharma. One who is aware of real religious life must abandon these 5 as irreligious. Text 13.
Religious principles that obstruct one from following his own religion are called vidharma. Religious principles introduced by others are called paradharma. A new type of religion created by one who is falsely proud and who opposes the principles of the Vedas is called upadharma. And interpretation by one's jugglery of words is called chala dharma.
A pretentious religious system manufactured by one who willfully neglects the prescribed duties of his order of life is called abhasa, a dim reflection or false similarity. But if one performs the prescribed duty for his particular ashrama or varna, why are they not sufficient to mitigate all material distresses?
Text 15. Even if a man is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together or to become a famous religionist. Just as a great python, although lying in one place, not endeavoring for its livelihood, gets the food it needs to maintain body and soul, one who is desireless also obtains his livelihood without endeavor.
One who is content and satisfied and who links his activities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead residing in everyone's heart enjoys transcendental happiness without endeavoring for his livelihood. Where is such happiness for a materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth?
For a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there is no danger even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied, there is no distress. Indeed, he feels happiness everywhere.
My dear king, a self-satisfied person can be happy even with only drinking water. However, one who is driven by the senses, especially by the tongue and genitals, must accept the position of a household dog to satisfy his senses.
Because of greed for the sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, education, austerity, and reputation of the devotee or brahmana who is not self-satisfied dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes.
The strong bodily desires and need of a person distributed by hunger and thirst are certainly satisfied when he eats. Similarly, if one becomes very angry, the anger is satisfied by chastisement and its reaction. But as for greed, even if a greedy person has conquered all the direction of the world or has enjoyed everything in the world, still he will not be satisfied.
Okay, last one.
O King Yudhishthira, many persons with varied experience, many legal advisors, many learned scholars, and many persons eligible to become presidents of learned assemblies fall down into hellish life because of not being satisfied with their positions.
Thank you. So let's go back now to text 13. And we'll do the Sanskrit for this. Dharma badho vidhama syat paradharmo nyachoditaha upadharmastu pakando dambho va shabdabhich chala dharma badho vidharma syat paradharmo nyachoditaha upadharmastu pakando dambho va shabdabhich chalaha. Please chat. Dharma badho vidharma syat paradharmo nyachoditaha upadharmastu pakando dambho va shabdabhich chalaha dharma badho vidharma syat paradharmo nyachoditaha upadharmastu pakando dambho va shabdabhich chalaha. Okay, let's do the word for word all together. Dharma badha obstructs the execution of one's own religious principles. Vidharma, against the principles of religion. Syat, should be. Paradharma, imitating religious systems for which one is unfit. Anyachoditaha, which is introduced by someone else. Upadharma, concocted religious principles. 2, indeed. Pakanda, by one who is against the principles of Vedas, standard scriptures. Damba, who is falsely proud. Va, or. Shabbabit, by word jugglery. Chala, a cheating religious system. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Religious principles that obstruct one from following his own religion are called Vidharma. Religious principles introduced by others are called Paradharma. A new type of religion created by one who is falsely proud and who opposes the principles of the Vedas is called Upadharma. An interpretation by one's jugglery of words is called Chala Dharma. Jugglery. It's like a tongue twister. Purport. To create a new type of dharma has become fashionable in this age. So-called swamis and yogis support that one may follow any type of religious system according to one's own choice, because all systems are ultimately the same. In Srimad Bhagavatam, however, such fashionable ideas are called Vidharma, because they go against one's own religious system. The real religious system is described by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. The real religious system is that of surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in connection with Ajamil's deliverance, Yamaraj says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Real religion is that which is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as real law is that which is given by the government. No one can manufacture actual law at home, nor can one manufacture actual religion. Elsewhere it is said, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje. The real religious system is that which leads one to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, anything opposed to this religious system of progressive Krishna consciousness is called vidharma, paradharma, upadharma, or chala dharma. Misinterpretation of Bhagavad Gita is chala dharma. When Krishna directly says something, and some rascal interprets it to mean something different, this is chala dharma, a religious system of cheating, or shabda bhit, a jugglery of words. One should be extremely careful to avoid these various types of cheating systems of religion. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, this section starts off talking about the different kinds of cheating religions, or irreligion that appears to be religion. Okay, and this is one of the symptoms of a person in the mode of ignorance, according to Bhagavad Gita, is that they take irreligion to be religion. Right? So a person in the mode of goodness, they know what is to be done, what is not to be done. They know what is religion and what is not religion. And then a person in the mode of passion, person in the mode of passion, what's it say? They take, they use religion for material gain, because a person in the mode of passion is all about getting material sense gratification, satisfying their lust. And then a person who is in the mode of ignorance, they're always going the opposite way. So the person in the mode of goodness knows what religion is and follows it properly. Person in the mode of passion, they have some idea of religion, but they misuse it. And then a person in the mode of ignorance, they just totally go the opposite way of actual religion. So all these categories of irreligion, posing as religion, are all in the mode of ignorance, basically. They may start off with mode of passion, which is driven by material desires, but then in order to justify one's sense gratification, then what happens is that they create a philosophy to support their sense gratification, and then they make that into a religion, which is a cheating religion. So Srimad Bhagavatam, from the very beginning, rejects all these cheating religions. In the second verse it says, Dharma projita kaitavo cha paramo nirmatsaranam satam. That Dharma projita kaitavo. Kaitavo means cheating. And projita means rejects. So the Srimad Bhagavatam completely rejects all cheating religions. And here in this section, Narada Muni is exposing, he's exposing all these cheating religions. There are many varieties. So he's warning us, don't be confused, don't be misled. We need to know the real religious principles. And so that second verse continues, Vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam. That the Bhagavatam distinguishes reality from illusion for the welfare of all. So the illusion is that I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, I am this body, and satisfying my senses is going to make me happy. That's the big illusion in this world. And so all these cheating religious systems are built around supporting the illusion, basically. They're all products of Maya, and they support Maya, illusion. But real religion is that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, he is the supreme controller, I'm his eternal servant, and the only way for me to be happy is by pleasing Krishna, because I'm a part and parcel of him. So when he's happy, I'm naturally going to be happy. So that's real religion, and that's what's enunciated by the Lord, right? That's the Bhagavat Dharma. Dharman tu sakshat Bhagavat pranitam. That real religion comes directly from the Lord, directly from the scriptures. So we have to understand from the scriptures what is religion, or from the Mahajanas. Right? In the 6th canto, when Ajamil is on his deathbed, and the Yamadutas try to take his soul back to, or take his soul to, for hellish punishment because he did so many sinful activities. At the end, he calls out the name of his son, which is Narayan. And then when the Lord Vishnu hears his name being called, then he sends the Vishnu Dutas to go and bring him to save the soul, stop him from going to hell. Because just one time chanting the holy name is so powerful that it can save one from hellish punishments. So then at that time the Yamadutas become very confused, and they go back to Yamaraj and they say, what just happened? You know, this guy was so sinful and he was deserving to go to hell, and we went there, you know, doing the duty according to the laws of nature, that sinful people need to be taken to hell, and that's our duty, is to bring them to you, and you decide which hell they're going to go to. And we were stopped. These people just appeared and they just blocked us. And we're just frustrated and confused, like this has never happened before. So then Yamaraj speaks to them and he says, religious principles are very difficult to understand. He says, even the sages, even the demigods become confused when trying to ascertain real religious principles. And then, so the Yamadutas are thinking, well, who knows? Who can we actually learn about religious principles from? And then Yamaraj lists the names of 12 people, right? He says, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu, Kumara Kapilo Manu, what's the rest? Bhishma, Prahlada, Janaka, and then Swayambhu, Narada, and I myself, Vayam, yeah. So Swayambhu means Lord Brahma, Narada, Swayambhu Narada. Shambhu means Lord Shiva, Lord Kapila, the 4 Kumaras, the Bhishmadev, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Maharaj, Narada Muni, and Shukadev Goswami, Vyasakir, yeah, I missed him, and Yamaraj himself. He says, and I myself. So real religion can be learned from any of these 12 Mahajanas. And so any bona fide line of transcendental knowledge has to be rooted in one of these Mahajanas. Right? So there's the different sampradayas. There's the Brahma Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Brahma, Swayambhu. There's the Rudra Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Shiva, who's also listed there. There's the Kumara Sampradaya that comes from 4 Kumaras who are listed there. And then there's a Shri Sampradaya, Lakshmi Devi. She's not listed there, but she's the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu, so she knows what's what. So, yeah. So we're very fortunate that we're connected to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, to Lord Brahma, and so we can trust the teachings that come down to our Sampradaya Acharyas and to our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's purports are reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. And so the first part of this section is talking about these cheating religions and how to identify them. And then the second part is all about satisfaction, right? Overcoming greed and being satisfied with whatever one has. So what's the connection between these two things, cheating religions and satisfaction? Yes, Champakalatas. Oh, pass her the mic. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll just repeat. So that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, that if people are not satisfied, then their greed, their lust and their greed is going to push them to want more and more and more. And then they just start thinking of anything as a way to satisfy their unfulfilled desires, right? And then they use religion for that. You know, they'll pray to God for material things. They'll do the whole Karma Kanda section of the Vedas is oriented towards that, because that's the situation in the material world, is that most people are afflicted with lust and greed and all these things. So the Vedas are there to kind of catch them, right? Say, okay, you can fulfill your material desires by doing these rituals, worshipping these demigods, and gradually become purified, gradually make advancement. And that's, initially it's not a problem. And in fact, Krishna says that out of the 4 kinds of pious people who approach him, one is the person who wants wealth, right? Who actually wants material gain. And so they approach God, please give me money, please give me wealth, please give me prosperity. But the idea is that by approaching the Lord, one becomes purified. Trouble is that a lot of these people, they're more interested in their material gain than in the Lord himself. Right? And so they're just using the Lord as their order supplier, as Prabhupada would say. So then, in order to justify this basically, a bogus approach to religion, then they create different philosophies. And these philosophies become obstructive. They become obstructions to real spiritual advancement. And so one example of this is, in Christianity, there's sort of a philosophical deviation called the prosperity gospel. Prosperity gospel. So the idea of this prosperity gospel is that, the whole purpose of religion is to become materially prosperous. And then they actually take material prosperity or wealth as an indication of spiritual advancement, right? So if you're praying to God for wealth and you get your wealth, that means that you have a lot of faith. You're a very religious person. But if you are praying to God for wealth and you're still poor, that means you're not a good devotee. There's something wrong with you. You don't have strong enough faith. Your belief is weak, or you're just not a very religious person. So I was researching this a little bit, this whole prosperity gospel concept, and there was a site that was called "What Does the Bible Say About Prosperity Gospel?" And it turns out that not only based on Srimad Bhagavatam, but even based on the Bible, this prosperity gospel is completely bogus. So, and it was quoting, verse after verse from the Bible, saying things like that wealth and covetousness are, destructive to spiritual life. That it's easier for an elephant to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go to the kingdom of God. That, what else? Anyways, there are a bunch of things like that. They were saying that, and the example of Christ himself, that he didn't have a fixed residence. He was basically like a sannyasi. He was just vow of poverty and traveling. He says he has no fixed place to lay his head. And he tells his followers, just follow me, do as I'm doing. Don't be attached to all of your material comforts. So, so the Bible doesn't condone that approach to religion or using God for one's material purposes, and certainly wealth is not necessarily a sign of spiritual advancement. And also according to Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, Krishna says, Yasyaham anugrinami harishye tat dhanam shanai. He says that the first installment of my mercy is that I take away the person's wealth. He might give it back again later. But and Srila Prabhupada says that an easygoing life, an easygoing and materially comfortable life, and Krishna consciousness don't go well together. It's like you're trying to light a fire and then you're throwing water on it at the same time. So trying to light a fire by doing the processes of sadhana bhakti, you're trying to get your devotional fire blazing. But then if you're simultaneously trying to fulfill your material desires and become materially comfortable, then that's the pouring of the water on the fire. So fire doesn't go well when you're pouring water on it, right? No matter how good your lighter is. So, and then there's a section too where Narada Muni is talking to the sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nala Kuvara, who are bathing, and they're the sons of Kuvera, and Kuvera is the demigod in charge of wealth. So they have a lot of wealth at their disposal, And then what happens is they just become very whimsical and proud and degraded. And so they're in the river and they're with these women and they're all naked and they're just splashing each other and playing, decadently there because they feel like they can. That's the trouble, is that when people have money, a lot of money, they think that they can do anything because they can just get anything they want. They can buy their way out of trouble if they get into trouble. They go to jail, they just bail themselves out. They bribe some, public official to get the charges waived or something like that. So it creates this illusion that I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, I can do whatever I want, I can get whatever I want, and basically that I'm God. And they become falsely proud. So that's mentioned in this text 13, is that all of these religious systems are made by people who are falsely proud. And the word here in the Sanskrit is Dumbo. So don't be a Dumbo. Dumbo means false pride. And that's one of the, that same word is used in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is describing the divine and demoniac natures. So the first thing he says about the people of demoniac nature is Damba, that they're falsely proud. So it's false pride that leads to these things. And there was one Christian minister, theologian, his name was Anton Boysen. And one of our devotees, Ravinda Sarup Prabhu, did a whole study on his work. He lived back in the 1930s when he wrote a book on this, based on this research that he did that was based on the effects of a sense of personal failure in one's spiritual practice. So he saw how, people who are trying to lead a religious life, they're not always able to, live up to the standard that they would like to, right? And we see this a lot in Krishna consciousness because our practice is our standard is so high. It's practically like the highest religious standard on this planet, or maybe even in the material world. Like 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds every day, sex only for procreation, taking only Krishna prasadam, like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and, fasting on Ekadasi and all these things that we do. It's like, it's quite extreme in the eyes of most people in this world. So it's common and it's almost expected that people are going to fall short, devotees are going to fall short of the mark, right? That some days they're not going to finish their rounds or have very quality rounds, or they might have some slip up in terms of regulative principles, or they might be indulgent, or they might sometimes eat something that's not offered, not properly offered, not even offerable, right? So sometimes it happens, right? It's just a fact of life that sometimes it happens. So then the question is, how do we respond when we fail ourselves? When we feel like we're a failure in the eyes of Guru and Krishna? And so there are healthy responses to personal failure, and then there are very unhealthy responses to personal failure. So the healthy response is that you, first of all, you recognize that you've done something wrong and you feel bad about it. That's like actually healthy, to feel bad about doing something wrong. That's one of the qualities of the mode of goodness, is that you feel bad about doing something wrong. And then it shouldn't stop there, but the healthy response continues, that you go to someone, you go to a senior devotee, a shiksha guru, a mentor, and you confess, right? The confession is something very strong in Christianity, that you go and you admit what you did wrong to someone. You don't just admit it to yourself like, oh no, I messed up, but you actually go to a human being, someone who can help you, your priest or your guru or your mentor, and you say, Father, I have sinned. And it's very healthy because you get it out there and it's like, okay, now we can work with it. And because you've approached a living person, you're not just standing in front of the deity. Of course, deity is Krishna. It's not that he's not living, but it's not necessarily that he's going to speak to you directly. right? It's important to go to someone who can actually like understand you and advise you on, okay, this is what you can do. Let's work on this. So what is it? What is the root of the problem? What led you? What is the unfulfilled need in your life that led you to do this? You can get to the root of the problem and work with it and work through it. And then that fall down, if it's handled in a healthy way, it can actually lead to strengthening faith. Just like in a relationship, if you have a fallout in a relationship and then you just, kind of ignore it, distance yourself from that person or write them off or just deny that it even happened or whatever, you don't confront it, then you're always just going to have a bad relationship, and then that resentfulness and things will spill over into your other relationships, and everything just becomes contaminated by that, bad relationship. Whereas if you go to the person and you deal with it in a healthy way using, being empathic and using nonviolent communication, or maybe getting a mediator or something, just working it out and making some compromises, taking responsibility for one's own faults, then the relationship actually becomes stronger after the falling out than it was before, right? I'm sure you've all had that experience. So in the same way, our faith and our determination, conviction in Krishna consciousness can become even stronger after we've had some kind of, slip up, if it's handled properly. The problem is that often we don't deal with our mistakes or our fall downs in healthy ways. And instead, we'll blame people, or we'll reject the standards, right? We'll just make light of the standards, like, oh, this is fanatical anyway, this is like too extreme, and no one should be expected to do these things. So you just make light of the standards that the standards are bogus. The standards are the problem. I'm not the problem. My lust and greed aren't the problem. It's the standards that are the problem. Or we create a philosophy. We create a philosophy that justifies sense gratification, and then we even sometimes go around preaching that to other people, that you need to do this. Like I was in one temple community a while ago, some decades ago, and there was this couple, and they were going around and they were literally like preaching to everyone that these standards that Prabhupada has about sex and family life, it's just really extreme, and if you follow them, you're not going to have a happy marriage. It's going to lead to divorce. So husband and wife should engage in intimate relationships at least once a week, otherwise your marriage is going to be doomed. And they were like really preaching it. And it was kind of funny, like, why would you do this? And I was thinking, well, obviously, if you yourself are not able to follow the standards, then if you can convince yourself that you're okay, if you can make everybody else come down to your standard, right? So it's like as soon as everybody's doing it, then it becomes okay. Just like you're driving on the highway and the speed limit is 70, but everybody's going 90. So it's like even if the police pass you, because everyone's going 90 and they're going 92, like they're not going to pull you over for going 90 because that's just what's happening, right? That's just what it is. That's the new standard. So that's what people do is they fall down to a lower standard, and then they try to convince everyone else to follow that standard, their low standard, and then as soon as everyone is on that low level, then that becomes the new standard, and it's a new religion. They basically created a new religion, which is Vidharma, which actually obstructs their spiritual advancement. So we have to be very careful about all these things. And so Bhagavatam is warning us about these, and it's light. And so, this prosperity gospel is just another thing. It's just another example of that people are attached to wealth. They want to have wealth. So then they create a philosophical deviation, a bogus religion, or a new type of religion created by one who is falsely proud and opposes the principles of religion, an upadharma. So prosperity gospel is basically an upadharma that is created by people who are proud and not willing to admit their attachments. And so they justify their attachments by saying that fulfillment of this desire, clinging to this attachment, is actually, or strengthening my material attachment, is the goal of is actually the actual goal of religion. Whereas actually the goal of religion is to let go of these material attachments, to simplify one's life and to be satisfied with whatever one has by the grace of the Lord, according to one's karma. So, yeah, and Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami in text 129, this is a very famous verse that Prabhupada quoted a lot. So he literally says this, he says, Dharmasya hyapavargasya, that real dharma, real religion, is meant for liberation, is meant for apavarga, which means liberation. And then he says, Nartor tayo pakalpate, that it's not meant for material gain. So arta means material gain, like the arta jigyasa or artarti. So the person who wants arta, material gain, they may approach the Lord. But real religion is not arto pakalpate. It's the goal is not material gain. It's not meant for material gain. And then he goes on to say that nartasya dharma ikantasya, if by doing your dharma you happen to get some material gain, then what to do with it? Kama labhaya hrismritaha. He said, don't use it for sense gratification. So first of all, dharma is not meant for sense gratification. It's not meant for material gain, which would be used for sense gratification. And if by doing your dharma you happen to get some material gain, don't use it for sense gratification. So, yeah, because, and this is kind of like it's a twist on the Vedic conception of religion, because a lot of, Vedic religion is based on these 4 purusharthas, or the 4 so-called goals of the human being, which are dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So the idea there is that dharma, religion, leads you to artha, material gain, and then artha can then be used for kama, fulfillment of your material desires. And then when you get frustrated in fulfillment of your desires, then you come to moksha. Then you can get liberated. But then Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, no, that's not what it's for. Dharma is not meant for artha, and artha is not meant for kama. Actually, dharma is meant for moksha, and that's it. And these 2 middle steps are not at all necessary. In fact, they become problematic because kama doesn't necessarily lead to moksha, right? Because we see that when people are just trying to fulfill their kama, their lust, then when they're it's like putting fuel on the fire doesn't go out by putting more and more fuel on it. It just burns brighter, right? And that's what Krishna says about lust in the Bhagavad Gita, that dushparena analena cha, that lust is never satisfied and it burns like fire. So this is Bhagavatam kicking out the cheating religion, just kicking out these concepts of artha and kama in connection with religion. So, yeah. And then it establishes what is the actual dharma, is savai pumsam paro dharma yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratiyata yayatma suprasidati. That the real religion, the real dharma, the paradharma, supreme religion, is devotional service to the Lord. And when we do that without any material motivation, without wanting any material gain as a result of it, without trying to get some sense gratification out of it, then only we can be satisfied. And that's what this section is all about, is that if we can just not get distracted or pulled away or misled, cheated by these cheating religions, we can just focus on real religion, devotional service to Krishna, then we can actually be satisfied. And that satisfaction will make us happy, right, and peaceful in life. And we won't be even attracted to these cheating religions which are based on fulfilling material desires. So, yeah. So then what about our material situation? If we're not supposed to endeavor for material gain, then how do we get our material needs met? How much, what should we do about our material needs? And so that's addressed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.10, where Sutta Goswami says, Kamasya nendriya pratir, says that Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. Labo jiveta yavata. One should desire a healthy life or self-preservation. Jivasya tattva jigyasya. A human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Narto yas cheha karmabhi. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So he's saying that, don't endeavor for your sense gratification. Human life is not meant for that. Human life is meant for inquiring, right? Atato brahma jigyasa. That now that you've attained the human form of life, inquire about the absolute truth. This is like the prerogative of the human life. This is what makes human beings different from animals, is that we have the capacity to ask the big questions about life. Who am I? Why am I here? Who is God? What is my purpose? What am I meant to do? Why am I suffering? Right? We're meant to inquire, what is the absolute truth? What is the actual reality of the situation? And then as far as our material maintenance, just live a healthy life, right? Labo jiveta yavata, that jiva, just work in order to live, right? Just maintain your life, self-preservation. So do the minimal that you need to do in order to keep this body and soul together, in order to have to be peaceful. Because also it's mentioned here in the purports when Prabhupada is talking about satisfaction, that one shouldn't be impoverished. He says that poverty destroys all good qualities. So we shouldn't be, always struggling to get more and more wealth and be, very opulently situated. But at the same time, we shouldn't be poverty-stricken, because that also is not favorable for spiritual life. But we should be, in a good situation. So we have what we need. We're not always like desperately trying to, because as soon as you become poor, it's like you just start thinking, you have a lot of unsatisfied needs. And then you start thinking, what can I get from the situation, right? How can I squeeze some money? How can I, and you end up getting a mentality of like taking. Just I'm taking more than I'm giving. Whereas if you have some means, then you can give, and it's nice to be able to give back, to just volunteer one's time without getting something back, and to give in charity to support devotees and your temple and things like that. So it's good to have some means. But just enough, and everyone has to be introspective, and that's different for different individuals, but to just self-preservation, to have what we need. And this satisfaction is so important that Narada Muni says that, he uses this really nice analogy. He says that for a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there's no danger even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied, there's no distress. Indeed, he feels happy everywhere. So the shoes on our feet, satisfaction is like shoes. If you're wearing shoes, you can walk anywhere and you won't hurt yourself. In the same way, if you're satisfied, you can live in any condition of life and you're going to be happy, right? Nothing can bother you because you don't want anything, right? And so if you don't have anything, you're fine. You can be happy with having very little because you're satisfied. And so satisfaction doesn't depend on what we have. Satisfaction is a state of mind, that with whatever we have, if we're really satisfied, we can be happy. And satisfaction comes from devotional service. It comes from a loving relationship with Krishna. So, and that's also the source of happiness. And Krishna talks about satisfaction in Bhagavad Gita as one of the austerities of the mind. And when he's talking about the different austerities in the goodness, passion, ignorance, he talks about austerities of the body, of speech, and of the mind. And he says an austerity of the mind is, the first one is satisfaction, and the second one is simplicity. So it's actually an austerity to be satisfied, right? It's difficult in this world to be satisfied because especially this materialistic society that we live in is always pushing us to have more and more. And we're basically trained like that. We're trained that you need to get a higher education and get a good job because you can earn more money. And then once you have your money, then you need more, and it's never enough money. And you always need a better phone and a better car and a nicer house and a nicer neighborhood and better clothes. And the more money we have, the more money we spend, and then the less money we have, and the more money we need, and the more money we spend. And then it's just like this vicious cycle where it's never enough, right? So, And in that case, when we're afflicted by greed and it's never enough, then no matter how comfortable, no matter how opulent our material situation is, we're not happy. We're never going to be happy because our heart is always just burning with that greed. But as soon as we're satisfied, then we're always going to be happy no matter how little we have. So it's like shoes on the feet, that whatever terrain you're walking through, your feet are going to be fine because the shoes are there. So whatever situation we may face in life, we can be happy if we have, if we're satisfied, if we have that mentality of satisfaction. And it's something that needs to be cultivated. But that it comes naturally through devotional service. So the good news is that by performing devotional service, then everything becomes perfect and complete. We become satisfied, we stick with Shastra, and we have to know the Shastra. So yeah, the reason that these Christians become enamored by this philosophy gospel is because they don't read the Bible. Right? If they would read the Bible, they would know what Jesus has to say, what the Bible has to say about wealth and poverty and material gain and what religion is meant for and all that. And likewise, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we become very clear on what is reality, what is illusion, what is religion, what is irreligion, and we can know what's not to be done, what is to be done, what's to be desired, what is not to be desired, and it becomes very clear. So, yeah, similarly in ISKCON, a problem is that a lot of devotees don't read Prabhupada's books. Right? I was talking with Shivaram Swami at Sadhu Sangha, and he was selling his books there, and he was sitting there the whole time. He was sitting in a chair right next to his book table, and so sometimes I would go and just sit there. There was always usually like a small group of devotees sitting there on the floor next to him. Just sit there and ask some questions and hear from him. So yeah, we were talking about Shastra and the importance of studying scripture and understanding our philosophy and the actual goal of it. And then he said, it's a big problem in our movement. He said, and there are thousands of devotees there at Sadhu Sangha, and they're all walking by. Like, it's just like droves of devotees walking by. And he just kind of waved his hand. He said, they're not interested. What can we do? They're just not interested. And I said, do you mean the devotees are not interested? And he said, yeah, they're just not interested in knowing about Krishna. And they're not reading. How many devotees have read Srimad Bhagavatam? Even amongst the leaders, there was a survey that was done of even the GBC members several years ago. It was an anonymous survey, so they didn't have to be known as the one who doesn't read Prabhupada's books. But it was like, how often do you read Prabhupada's books? Which of Prabhupada's books have you read? Have you read the whole Bhagavatam? Have you read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita? How much time each day do you spend reading Prabhupada's books? How many time each week? Or something like that. Those types of questions. And the results came back, and it was like very gloomy, that even amongst our leaders, GBCs and gurus, sannyasis, it's like very few of them are reading Prabhupada's books regularly or are attending classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and things like that. So what to speak of, just rank and file devotees who, have their families and jobs and so many responsibilities. So, but it's so important, otherwise we get deviated, we get misled by all these philosophies, and it's often devotees that are preaching these, vidharmas and upadharmas and paradharmas. Like paradharma means somebody's giving you advice, they're advising you to do something that's not actually suitable to your nature, right? Like if somebody comes along and says, oh, you should be doing this, but it's not your nature. You can earn money doing this, you'll be well situated, or this will be, and it's just like has nothing to do with your nature. And then it's going to end up being destructive. Like Krishna tells Arjuna that, you have to fight because it's your nature to fight, and by acting according to your nature, you'll be elevated. But if you do some other thing, you want to go off to the forest and live like a sage, that's not going to work for you. You're going to get degraded because to follow another's path is actually dangerous. So this paradharma means doing the dharma of somebody else. We shouldn't do the dharma of somebody else. We have to do our own dharma. So we have to know our own nature. So there are so many ways in which we can get deviated from the actual path of religion. And it's interesting that the dharma, the path of religion, is different for each individual, right? According to your nature, according to your situation. right? There's dharma that's specifically for women, right? There's Stri dharma. There's dharma that's specific for brahmacharis or for sannyasis or for grihastas or, for the different varnas. So there are different nuances to dharma, and that's why we need a guru. That's why we need guru, sadhu, and shastra to understand what is the proper dharma for me in my life situation. And then all of those fall under the umbrella of the paradharma, which is devotional service to the Lord. But that can look different for different individuals. So we need to be clear on all these things. And Srimad Bhagavatam is here to help us. So we need to read it and study it, hear it, inquire about it, and then we'll get clarity. So I'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Yes. Pass the mic, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada Piya Mataji. This whole conversation is very beautiful. And we come across with people sometimes who maybe are relatives, maybe are friends.
Maybe our
friends and relatives. And when they see you practicing so nicely, they feel like they're a little envious. So they say, oh, what I'm doing is good as well. And when I ask them, where do you get your information from to practice? What are you practicing? They're like, oh, I just do it because I like what I'm doing. How do you respond to a person like that who has no shastric evidence of doing what they're doing, but then you want to be kind and cordial with them as well? So how do you deal with that kind of situation?
Yeah. The best thing to do is to ask open-ended questions. Right? Like, so you can just ask them, well, what is the goal? What is the purpose, the ultimate purpose of what you're doing? Or what is the ultimate goal? How is that benefiting you spiritually? Right? I can see how that's satisfying some needs that you have, and it's making you happy, and it's giving you happiness in some ways. But what about, other needs that you have? Your emotional needs, your social needs, your spiritual needs. How is it satisfying your spiritual needs? Right? Or how is this going to, what is there in what you're doing now that you're able to carry over to your next life? Right? How is this going to benefit you after this lifetime is over? So to try to, ask open-ended questions, which generally start with how and why. Right? What is the ultimate benefit? How is this fulfilling your spiritual needs? What is this? What are you able to carry over? And then that gets them thinking. Because most people don't want unsolicited advice, right? Especially if they're trying to convince you that their lifestyle is better. So instead of getting into an argument which is not going to end, she's just going to go away thinking that her way is better, and you're going to go away thinking your way is better. Just try to get the person to think. Ask some questions that make them think. And then they're going to end up realizing that just a totally material life, it may satisfy certain needs, but they're going to realize, upon being questioned, that there are other things that they're neglecting, that are very important, and that are, in fact, the most important, right? Because we're not these bodies, we're the soul. Body's going to end, soul is going to go on. Where is the soul going? That's very important. What kind of body are you going to get? What is your destination going to be? And so we need to prioritize that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Hi, Krishna Prabhupada. Prabhupada, thank you for another wonderful class. And I really appreciate the point about satisfaction. If we're satisfied, then even if we have some that come and preach something that is not, conducive, then we can see, okay, that's where they're at. This will not work for me, so I better stick to the process. So
yeah, satisfaction actually keeps us. It's important to keep us steady and fixed in our determination and bhakti, Because then if somebody comes along with some tantalizing material opportunity, then, you hear it and you're just like, not interested. People come along and say, you could be making a lot more money doing something else, right? You're very intelligent. I've had so many people come up to me, on book distribution and things. People are like, you could be making a lot of money with the skills that you have. And they're giving me their card, you may not be interested now, but later, your life situation might change. You might have some realizations and give me a call kind of thing. And I'm just like, I take the card. Thank you very much. Get home, throw it in the garbage. Like, I'm good. Maybe I could. I'm sure I could make a lot more money. I'm sure I could be better situated. I'm sure I could, have a higher standard of living, but I'm not interested, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't need anything more to be happy. And so it's like it makes you immune to all of these things. And greed doesn't arise. If you're just satisfied, and that like I was saying, that satisfaction comes from the relationship with Krishna and loving relationships with Krishna's devotees and just dovetailing everything in service, because Krishna's happy. And when Krishna's happy, we're happy. And when we take a step away from Krishna to try to get a higher level of happiness for ourselves, we end up getting a lower level of happiness, because Krishna's like, hey, where are you going? and then he doesn't reward that. He doesn't reward us stepping away from him. He rewards us stepping towards him, right? So, yes, Ru. You have to press it twice. Yeah.
I was sadhu sangha also. I saw the Sibram. I was standing far away and watching Sibram Maharaj. Such a personality present with us. His books, his paintings. It's another revolution in ISKCON. This is his presentation. So I feel really, I never go so close. Last time Mayapur, he invite his secretary, invite for pizza party with 70 devotees and Govinda. So I was there. So I always try to stay a little far away. Don't want to go so close, such a big personality. So I see his kirtan. When he do kirtan, he says, I told Maharaj, when you sing, you're roaring. The Koli's fear about your roar like a lion. So he was laughing. So then, so this altogether, I feel so sad that he felt it, because 4,000 devotee, few of, like I saw you also sitting next to a few kids was interested next to Maharaj. So it was not like that. When Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I remember in Parikrama time, after Parikrama, all devotee walking, they're tired. Then evening session, I remember devotee are so fired up to Jayadatta Maharaj, Bhakti Charaswami Guru Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, everybody have question and answer session. And devotee is taking the note, sitting there, recording. But those kind of enthusiasm we don't see now. It's kind of more entertainment, I feel. Like Sadhu Sangha, do you came Dylan after the project, after the Sadhu Sangha over, you came to Dylan?
No, okay. I was sitting on an airplane.
Okay. So then Dylan we had program, the last day, final day.
For Bhakti Swami's Samadhi.
I came personally actually that program.
Nice.
So the almost Srila Prabhupada disciples, sannyasis, 10 sannyasi was there. Sachendra Maharaj, Bibi Govinda Maharaj. So then the program was they're going to talk about Srila Prabhupada, and then after then we can little kirtan and open we have a small monument there.
Mm-hmm.
But Radhanath Swami Maharaj, Bibi Govinda Maharaj, where they spoke about the Bhakti Char Swami Maharaj, their relationship, the whole Modi, the Prabhupada, everybody was crying. the audience. I think few devotees from Dallas, they went there, they experienced, they saw that. And I was trying to figure it out why it's happened. So then I found that Chaitanya Charitamrita, one verse, they said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bohiranga Bhakta Sangha Kore Naam Sankirtan, Antaranga Bhakta Sangha Rasa Sadhan. So the external devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed the Sankirtan, Harinam. But with the external, like Sarup Damodar, Ramananda Rai, he discussed about pastime with Krishna. So 4,000 devotees went there, all was really thirsty about Krishna consciousness. So some or other, they could not maybe connected. Out of them, 700 devotees came to D-Land, and they spoke about very deep with the relationship, love, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, and then heart just their melt. So probably we don't go so much deep. We are maybe little bit satisfaction level, what we talk about, there's satisfaction on tusti, you don't need anything. So there may be, okay, I'm in Kirtan, I got a happy, so I don't need anything to go deep. So that kind of tusti maybe, or satisfaction there. So but spiritual journey actually not, I'm satisfied, I don't need any more. That's why Mahaprabhu Hankar and Shikshastakam, that. So we need more and more dose. So that's a kind of intense desire for the spiritual life actually give you totally different realm of spiritual understanding. I don't know. So it is a very, I just trying to share this when Shivra Maharaj told you that part. So I really feel bad because these are people want to open their heart to give you something.
Yeah.
But we are not really interested.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, he was actually sad. He was like, so much to give. He studied so much to give. His books are there. He's sitting there. Like, people are not interested. They're not. Yeah. So we need to go deep. We need to go deep in our Krishna consciousness, go deep in the Shastra, and then we get a taste. We get a real taste for Krishna consciousness that goes beyond just, social dealings, entertainment, like you said, because sometimes kirtan can be entertainment. But we had a retreat last weekend with Madhava Prabhu in Austin. I was talking with Madhava Prabhu, and he said same thing. The youth are so into kirtan, but without sadhana, without chanting japa, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, without actually practicing these regular daily sadhana bhakti, then you can't sustain the kirtan. Your kirtan is flat. It doesn't have life. So, we have to not, we come to this world thinking that we're the supreme enjoyer. We want to enjoy separately from Krishna. And then that enjoyment propensity is so strong that we just we bring it into the realm of devotional service, and we'll do only those services which we enjoy, right? So kirtan, singing, getting together with friends, singing and dancing, taking prasadam, that's enjoyable, right? So I'm going to enjoy Krishna, Not that I want to give Krishna enjoyment, but I want to enjoy Krishna. So that's, at least Krishna's in the picture, so it's a start, it's okay, but it's not the paradharma. Paradharma is that I exist, my existence is meant for Krishna's pleasure. And like the gopis would say that even if our displeasure, if our unhappiness gives Krishna happiness, then if my suffering gives Krishna happiness somehow or other, then my suffering is my greatest happiness. And if my happiness gives Krishna pain, then that happiness is my greatest pain, because it's not about me and my happiness, it's about Krishna and his happiness. And so instead of picking and choosing and according to what pleases our senses and pleases our material minds, we need to follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra and actually follow the process. And then we'll actually be happy. When we stop trying for our happiness selfishly, and we just try for Krishna's happiness of Krishna and devotees, then we'll actually be happy. and satisfied. So that's the secret.
Whatever mentioned right now, I just maybe Shiva Maharaj's books or somewhere I read one paragraph like that. The Vrindavan, those devotees were so unhappy because they feel Krishna is in Mathura is not happy. That's why their mood was Krishna is not served properly over there. They don't know how to make Krishna happy. So the Krishna may be not happy there. That's why there was Vrindavan was unhappy.
Yeah.
That was a comment I.
Yeah, so Lord Chaitanya said, Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam vajagadishikamaye mama janmani janmarishvare bhavatad bhaktir haituki tvai. That I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor beautiful women, nor any number of followers, nor, what's the other thing? Nadanam, najanam, nasundarim. Yeah. Followers, wealth, followers, beautiful women. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Right? Causeless means without any material motivation. I only want to serve you purely just for your pleasure, just to make you happy. And I want to do that even if I have to take birth again in the material world, doesn't matter. That's all I want to do, here, there, anywhere. Right? Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bibhuti swarga apavargya narakesh vapi tulyarta darshana. That if we take shelter of Lord Narayana, if we take shelter of Krishna with that mood, then it doesn't matter whether we're in Swarga, the heavenly planets, Apavarga, whether we have liberation, or Narakesh, whether we go to hell. It doesn't matter. That such a devotee views any situation as the same.